Hey guys, my name is David Gabe. I'm going to be talking to you about the grammar translation method. I have a catchphrase here: the method that taught generations, but is it still teaching? When I do my learning intentions before class, I make my own version. I call it WALT. We are learning to understand the historical roots, core practices, and philosophy of GTM, grammar translation method. Um, we'll be evaluating the strengths and limitations of it in today's language classrooms, especially in places like Japan. And we're going to be reflecting on how it could influence students' current learning habits. This is important because GTM still influences a lot of how English is taught in many classrooms, especially in exam-driven systems. It explains why some traditional approaches we've used have worked and why others haven't. I'm learning a lot about the things that I've done in the classrooms and thinking, oh, that's why it didn't work, or that's why that was worked out well or didn't. When I'm learning about concepts and philosophies, and now I'm finally able to put a name behind the strategies and techniques that I've been doing over the years. Um, and it'll give us some insight as to what our students are coming from, their background when they come to our classroom. I'll be going over historical roots, how it works, criticisms, benefits, where it's used today. Video clip of Japanese students talking about it. My reflections. Spoiler alert here. I do live in Japan. I'm in Thailand right now. There's a rainstorm, so hopefully you can't hear it. But I do live in Japan, so this is going to heavily kind of be based on a lot of my experience. And there's some information from the text, but a lot of like what I've seen personally after living in Japan for 5 years. Ifra and Anna, I hope I pronounce your names correctly, are also doing the grammar translation method. So um, they might have some more different types of go into more depth than I will. I'm going to, lean more heavily on my own experience. Historical roots comes from 18th and 19th century, mainly used for teaching Latin and Greek. Think doctors and lawyers understanding root words to uh, commonly used medical terms or law terms today. My dad took Latin in high school and he jokes about how it was kind of a waste of time, but he said he did it because he wanted to be a lawyer, which actually he never did. He went into marketing. Um, it's designed for reading comprehension, literacy appreciation. To read, to understand, not necessarily to communicate. Um, kind of another fun catchphrase on here. Grammar first, fluency later. Maybe. Okay, the philosophy, it's based on a transmission model. So really the sage on the stage, a sensei in front of the class, lecture format, teacher giving information, students writing it down, copying, memorizing. The teacher offering techniques, and students are expected to memorize them. Language is treated as a set of rules, more so than means for communication. Another fun phrase down here came up with: translate, memorize, repeat, but can you speak? How it works. Okay, well, it emphasizes written language, grammar rules, translation exercises. Heavily focuses on grammar rules and vocabulary memorization. Okay, so when one learns a word, they learn the Japanese word and then the English version of it. Japanese word, English version of it. So basically, when one is using this method, um, it's constant translating in the mind. What is the Japanese thing I'm trying to say? How do I say that in English? It's often taught in the student's native language, not the target language, especially here in Japan. Um, Japanese teachers are teaching English and they're teaching it with the Japanese accents, Japanese katakana rules. Katakana is like a way they pronounce English words. Memorizing scenarios and common questions and answers. There's safety in that, especially in cultures like Japan or Korea, especially Japan, where when you introduce yourself, when you meet other people, it's really a prescribed set of sentences and phrases and things that you say. So they treat teaching and learning English the same way. memorize these scenarios. And if you are in these scenarios, you're going to be great, which, as you know, though, in America, um, I mean, you can have 1,000 conversations at the cash register. Drills, lecture, lecture, lecture. That's basically how it works. My little catchphrase down here, getting the grammar right, but missing the conversation. You're going to see three things in Japan. One of them, people sleeping. And yes, sleeping, standing up. I can kind of do it. Um, and you're going to see people on their phones. And the third thing that you're going to see is these little books, Grammar Translation in Action. Japanese people use this not only for learning English, but how they learn everything. They have a book and then they have a red sheet of paper and the red film covers up the word and then they can look at it to find the answer. Okay. Criticism. It doesn't really prepare people for real life communication. It can be demotivating due to lack of interaction. It doesn't reflect on how people actually really acquire language. And it's teacher centered, not student centered. Some of the benefits is it helps with writing structure, reading comprehension, grammar accuracy, and vocabulary memorization, especially useful in test focused environments, especially in places like Japan, China, Korea, where in order to get into literally elementary school, junior high school, university, it's all standardized tests. So you memorize set questions in English and you might maybe you memorize 20 of them. Um, and you're going to be asked five. You just kind of hope that they ask your favorite question. It's familiar to many teachers and it's easy to structure large classes because the teacher has the information. They put it out. Okay, everybody, good morning. Write this down, copy it. So as far as memorizing and learning things, people who grew up with this are actually very good at remembering really all kinds of information. Where it's used today, I've already said Japan. 60% of English class time in Japan still focuses on grammar and translation. China, it's used, class sizes are just so big, it's just the easiest way to manage class. And also in South Korea, which is very similar to Japan with a lot of standardized testing. I got a quick video here for you guys offering some opinions of Japanese students talking about GTM. Okay, here's to talk about benefits. Easy to learn vocabulary for beginners. Good for a first step to learn. Good for a first step to learn. Okay, I'm gonna skip to 2 minutes here. Talk about some of the negative aspects. It is not a natural way to speak. Okay, so what she's saying is that when you're translating every sentence, it just takes a really long time to say what you want to say. Okay. All right, so living in Japan, some of my reflections. I've seen students and local people struggle with speaking and listening after more than 6 years. People learn it. It's required in junior high school. It's required in high school. It's required for your first year in university. Yet people are terrified to speak. Um, Many are skilled at translating and reading, but lack confidence in real communication. Teachers often feel pressured to focus on test content. So even as an American being there, I still, depending upon the type of school, I still have to teach them to the test. I have to be able to get them to, when it comes to standardized testing time, to listen to a sentence and they have to pick out the correct vocabulary word that matches it. Um, English is everywhere, but it is read and spoken in a native language and context. Look at this word, milk versus miruku, miruku, miruku. Okay, I have a very difficult time asking for extra milk in my coffee because I don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know if I should say it milk or if I should say it miruku, which is how they pronounce it using the katakana alphabet. But if I point, they can read it perfectly and they know exactly what I'm talking about. Many Japanese are really great with vocabulary. I have here that my Japanese friend and my American buddy, we went out for dinner one night and had a good time. And they had a competition reading my Japanese friend's English vocabulary book. And I tested them on their knowledge of definitions of vocabulary. And my Japanese friend cleaned the floor with my American friend with some pretty intense vocabulary because he's really good at memorizing it, whereas my American friend had no idea what they meant. Whereas if it was in a context situation, he'd be able to figure it out. And how it translates in U.S. language centers. I used to volunteer at a U.S. language center in Milwaukee, and Japanese students excelled at reading and writing activities. But when they were working with, let's say, students from Saudi Arabia, where they're more heavily focused on verbal interaction, um, the Japanese students would um, kind of get plowed down. Whereas when it came to writing and reading activities, the Japanese were really able to help the Saudi students. So actually, it was really great to fun to kind of partner them together and work with their strengths. Takeaways: GTM has played a big role in language teaching history, but it doesn't really help people how to really communicate. Still taught in places like Japan and Korea, mostly because of entrance exams and cultural norms. It's also how they learn their own language using the same lecture style, memorize, memorize, memorize. As teachers, we can respect the structure and grammar foundation GTM gives. It's really great for helping people, just like the Japanese student said, to learn initial vocabulary, to learn to memorize words. That's good for beginners, but that's about it. And knowing if a student comes from a GTM style classroom, it can help us meet them where they're at so we can build bridges to further growth. So my last moral here is it's not about throwing GTM out. It's more about using it as a bridge. Thanks a lot, you guys. I think I went over. I'm really enjoying this class and like being a traveler, my main source of social interaction is really just in the threads with you guys. I'm really thankful for all of you. Thank you for listening and for watching. Here are my references. I have the Brown text that we were given. I have another fun text that I found here online, which I will share. And then here's the YouTube video I used as well. Okay, thanks.